hilarious, bro. Hey, you know what? I had a question, man. Speaking of pot, grass, lids, all that. Cheech and Chong was from L.A. They are from L.A. How big was Cheech and Chong in the black community in the hood?
Oh, it was huge. You know what? I was telling somebody that the other day, dude. We didn't care about the color of nothing back then, dude. In the 70s, we didn't care about the color. I was playing some music in my car. Me and a friend was riding. What you doing with that white boy music? We didn't. Back in the day, Hall and Oates, David Bowie, even Elton John. They played them on the black stations. Benny and the Jets. Come on, man. I grew up on that shit. So we didn't have the same type of musical racial lines back then, dude. Man, everybody loved Gino Vanelli. Was that Gino Vanelli? Gino Vanelli? Yeah, I think it was Gino. And we didn't know that Sarah Smile was a white boy. Hold on. Bobby Caldwell was a white boy till later on. You know, if it was good, we listened to it, dude. So we didn't have no musical racial boundaries and nothing like that, dude. R&B and soul music. If you could sing as a white boy and you got played on a black station, it was nobody cared, dude. Nobody cared. We listened to. I just made me a USB drive with Wham, George Michael's Wham, and what's that dude's name? Come on. I used to love
Culture Club. That was my shit.
Come on, man. All that shit. Boss Skaggs. Yes, he was white. All these cats. Yes. Gino Vanelli. Yeah, they was white, dude. And we didn't care. And yes, we love some Phil Collins, man. That dude was off the chain when he was doing this thing, dude. All that shit. It was a very fluid era, the 80s, when it came to music and styles. And I think that's one of the things that some people may have not liked, because everything was so fluid, so intertwined, dude. It was just cool.
I love that.
And then
even going back, let's go. I want to because I was a big Cheech and Chong fan as a kid, even before I knew what they were even talking about. I didn't know nothing about weed, none of that. But from your eyes, what do you remember about their come up? And did you ever see them at a comedy club or anything? Because I know that's kind of where they got their start.
Comedy club, I just love their movies, man. Because them was some hood movies for real. Okay, them Cheech and Chong, Ice Dreams, man, or the Nice Dreams, shit.
Yes,
that was hilarious, man. That shit was hilarious. And then they always put some pretty girls in their movies. They had some stupid shit they did. And it was always had some kind of crazy ass drug experience. The funniest scene I remember from Cheech and Chong, one of their movies, at the end of the movie, Cheech was locked up in a insane asylum. They had him in a straitjacket. And he was tied up. Scratch my balls into my face. Yeah. My balls. I can't. That shit cracks me up today, dude. Man, I've watched that shit, man. I watched Cheech and Chong maybe a few months ago just to refresh my memory, dude. Because it was a different time. And I remember seeing them shoot that shit. There was one scene they shot up in Hollywood. I was in Hollywood and saw the street all blocked off, and they were shooting that particular scene. It was they were shooting on Ivar, man. I forgot what the scene was, but I remember seeing them out there in the lowrider and shit, and I was doing something in Hollywood. But yeah, that was the movie. If I ain't mistaken, they funded some of that shit, man. They were silly, but they were cutting edge for their times, dude. They were cutting edge for their time. I remember when Chong went to jail for selling. He did like a year, 18 months for selling paraphernalia. So he had a paraphernalia store.
Right, bro. Yeah, isn't that crazy, man?
Let me tell you why it rung with me. I was working for the record distributor, Record Shack, out of Compton, and we used to sell drug paraphernalia. That was part of our because we called them head shop. That's another one. We had head shops back in the day. Okay, we had what they call head shop. Head shops sold your incense. They had your posters, your black lights, your strobe lights. You can get, because marijuana was so illegal back then, they had all kinds of devices to hide your drugs in. Coca-Cola cans with the screw off bottom. You could buy a cut for any drug, and I ain't gonna get into it on YouTube. You can buy a cut for any drug at the time, and our distribution company sold marijuana paraphernalia, pipes, all kind of shit, and that was kind of one of my specialties. And I remember I got a bonus because at one point in time they banned weed paraphernalia in California, and I sold the whole damn our whole warehouse, whatever we had, to a cat in Arizona, like 10 grand worth of shit. And I got a bonus of about $50 for doing that shit. Okay, $50. I was happy camper. But that's how things shifted, because I think it was like 70, had to be like 74 when they started banning the sale of drug paraphernalia. Okay, pipes and bongs, yeah, all that kind of shit. Water pipes, we had everything, good ones too. And California banned the sale, because I used to go to a spot over on on Market Street called New World. New World was on off of Market Street, and it was on the corner of Market Street and Manchester, and they had everything, all the shit I just mentioned. Like I said, they had Coca-Cola cans. I still got one right to this day. I have an oil can that the bottom of it screws off, and if you shake it, it sounds like some oil in the damn thing, but it's not. It's a false bottom, and it's called a personal safe. But that was just another way of you transporting your weed without the cops finding out what's going on. You could have a can of oil, because most times cars back then, if they was raggedy enough, you needed to carry oil with you at all times just to get you back and forth to work.
You know, nowadays you can walk into any store, get whatever kind of weed you want. When I was a kid, you know, I had a pager, and we would have to page the weed guy, and we meet up in a Food for Less parking lot. The weed guy was always late, and I'm sitting there because I really wanted my weed, and there was no cell phone, so you can call and be like, where you at? You know, so it was kind of hard in the 90s, but going back to your day, Lonzo, in the 70s and stuff like that, you know, how hard or easy was it to get weed? And were there certain areas in LA, certain spots in LA that were known to, you know, people, hey, you can go get some weed over there, you know, type shit?
Yes, my neighborhood. All right, one of my partners I grew up with, we all grew up on the same block over off of Carlton. My boy, he had the whole area sold up like Nino Brown. He had it sold up like, and all he sold was weed. He had a fantastic connection, and he was smart enough to get a scanner, and he had a cast of walkie-talkies in various areas, because where we lived, I lived on a dead end. Cops couldn't come in but one way.